Let's call to order the new Palestine Town Council meeting, and our first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll do a roll call. Chris is joining us via social media, or not Zoom or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it is. But Bill?
Present.
Clint? Present. Randy?
Present.
And Angie?
Present. What about Chris?
Okay, we're all here with Chris joining us. We're going to call it Zoom. I don't know what it is. Can you hear us, Chris?
There we go. Okay. He said present.
Can you hear us? Uh-oh.
He has to be able to speak.
Scott, what can we do to crank it up?
Put your microphone.
Can we move?
Well, I know, but I mean him. Clint, better put yours closer. Not loud.
It doesn't really.
Oh, it doesn't.
No, I didn't have time to get set up. I didn't know it was going.
Can you hear us, Chris?
Looks like he's moved completely. Can I do that?
What was that?
There he was.
Trading.
He's going to sit in his seat.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of claims 25057 to 25118 as provided to us in our material.
I'll make a motion that we approve the claims as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion on the claims? All in favor of approving claims 25057 to 25118, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Passed. Okay, at this time, we're going to open it up for public comments, a limit of 3 minutes to any item that's on the agenda. Only items on the agenda.
Hi, I'm Jason Lewis, 4506 West Easy Street. I'm in Palestine. I was at the meeting last month and heard all the discussion and read minutes from all of, not all of the prior minutes, but a lot of them. It seems that the main order of business is the, I think it's the COVID apartments. I just want to know realistically what everybody's opinion is on it. And realistically, we can start with Chris and ask, why are you in favor of it?
Well, these are your comments that we're asking for right now.
You can't ask questions.
You can ask questions. The council's not obligated to answer them. They'll discuss during their consideration of that resolution.
That's all I'm asking. So Chris, why are you for it?
You want to know why I'm for this project?
Yes, sir.
Several reasons. I think, it's good for, we have different levels of people who can afford. I think we have a lot of maybe young professionals who would like the place. I don't think that's realistic for them to get a $300,000 or $400,000 house. I think it would be good. I want to develop the right kind of growth here. I think every other area has developed around Indianapolis, and if we're not careful, we're going to get something in here we don't want. So I think it's important for us to pick the right kind of project we do. I know the hospital has been very adamant that they want this to go through. I think it would do a lot for everyone around. So I think it's the right kind of growth we want. That's why I'm for it.
Thanks. Mr. DeLewis, I'm for this project because, as Chris said, we have a housing need, and not everybody. I was so moved by the two young gentlemen that came to a Plan Commission meeting and said that they currently live in their parents' basement. That's because they're not yet ready to, they can't afford to buy a house. That this is a way to stay in the community at a time that they can't afford a house yet. So, I mean, that was really moving to me. And like Chris said, you know, as council members, I think that it's our obligation to try to govern growth, because I don't think, if you look around Indianapolis, you can't stop the growth. We're next. It's coming. So we have the opportunity to be selective. We have said no to several projects because of density and other concerns. And here, you have a property that comes not at a residential tax rate, not at the highest business tax rate, but right in the middle. Apartments are at 2%, not 1 the lowest or 3 the highest. So it's a hybrid. So the tax revenue is favorable. And, you know, I selected this, my wife and I can't say I, Michelle and I selected this neighborhood, this community 33 years ago, and we absolutely love it. And to be able to provide that opportunity to others, I'm 100% for.
I agree. My stepson is a professional, just graduated from college, and he's a physical therapist now down at Ortho Indy. And Dr. Ryan Perkins, I'm pretty proud of him, but anyways, he was looking to move into that, you know, coming up here soon, but now he's probably going to have to move up to Fishers or somewhere. So it was something that we were looking forward to in that respect.
Well, the only thing I got to say is, this is not about the apartment project. The apartment project was approved. This is about the TIF bond for that apartment project. And with that, your 3 minutes are up. Is there anybody else that wants to comment on anything on the agenda? Next item on the agenda is adoption of the minutes of the March 15th meeting. Do I hear a motion on the approval of those minutes?
All motion to approve.
Second. Is there any discussion on those minutes?
I'll just note for the record that I wasn't at that meeting, so I will be abstaining.
It wasn't seconded.
Clint?
I second it.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Wait a minute.
What'd you say, Chris?
I wasn't there as well, I believe. I think both me and Bill missed, so I think I'll probably have to abstain as well.
Clint, just as a point of order, everyone's allowed to abstain if you're not in attendance, but Robert's Rules of Order and general parliamentary procedure don't require you to. Oftentimes, minutes are approved by consent if there's no objection to the minutes there. So.
Yeah, I think Doug told us at the last meeting that if we had read the minutes and we approved them, we could vote on them even if we weren't here. Is that right, Doug?
Correct.
Or you can abstain.
Call the vote, we'll see
That's
where we're at.
All in favor of approving the March 15th meeting minutes, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
I abstain.
Aye.
3 ayes and 2 abstain. Or abstain.
Motion approved.
Motion approved. Now we have approval of the April 5th meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the April 15th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? I'll second them. Any discussion on the April 5th meeting minutes? All those in favor of passing the April 5th meeting minutes, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. If you don't want to pass them, vote by saying nay. Or if you're going to abstain, vote by saying abstain.
I will abstain because I was out of state and not present.
I will abstain. I was not present at the meeting.
Okay, it was approved 3 ayes and 2 abstain. Abstain. Our first item under old business is the COVID project ordinance number 0419238, authorizing bonds for the 2023 Beckovit bond issue, revision 4.13.23.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance as presented.
Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second that.
It's been approved and seconded. We can open the floor for discussion on that, if there's any discussion.
I actually have a point of discussion on this matter this evening. As anyone who's been paying attention to this matter has noticed or known that I have abstained from this matter since day one, pending my employer being the owner of the property. And the Hancock Regional Hospital, my employer, still owning property within the allocated TIF area. And our attorney, our law firm advised us back in October, November, Bill had raised concern over was there truly a legal conflict of interest on this matter. And I was advised at that time that according to statute and as the law defines, which our legal counsel can explain far better than I can, that based on standards and law and everything else, that I did not have a legal conflict of interest because I did not benefit in any way, shape, or form from the real estate transaction, pecuniary, anything of that sort. Did I explain that correctly, Doug? Or
Correct.
okay. Still at that time, I felt that ethically and morally, if those are the right words to use, or perhaps I say in my conscience, that as long as Hancock Regional Hospital legally owned any part of the property in the TIF allocation area, that I could not in good conscience vote on the matter, that I felt it was a conflict of interest. I stated that 6 months ago, I believe. I was not at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I understand there was a great deal of dialogue, is that the right word? Over the matter, over the fact that I was not here, over the fact that Councilwoman Farno was not here, comments being made, rumors being made, accusations being made, attacks being thrown out here and there, and after that meeting, why are people not here? Why are they not showing up to vote? Okay? And it's overwhelming, right? And I can only speak for myself and the decisions I have made thus far. And 2 weeks ago, I was on vacation with my senior in high school. I'm not going to apologize for that. In fact, I've never seen an elected official being asked to apologize so much for decisions they have made or not made over the last year than I have, when I choose to be there for my family. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Okay, but my family comes first. And it shouldn't have any bearing on whether one person is here, there. If everybody here was required to give a report every time they couldn't make a meeting, and if they were sick or taking care of their family or something else, can you imagine? And I challenge any elected official to raise your hand if you have made 100% of your meetings. right? Since you've been elected at any point in time. I'm looking at my friend Bill Bolander, look at my friend Matt Holland. I challenge you, right? So for those that have a perception that that's a requirement and that you are a bad councilman or you're not doing your job if you're not here 100% of the time, there's a wonderful opportunity this summer to put your name at the election office and give it a shot. I highly encourage you to experience this firsthand. I've been there advocating and I've been here advocating. But with all of that being said, our legal counsel advised me, based on research on Monday, that according to Beacon and public record, that no part of the TIF allocation area belongs any longer to Hancock Regional Hospital. There is no longer any ownership whatsoever. My statement from day one was, as long as there was ownership, it was a conflict of interest and I would not vote. If that was no longer a factor, then I had some decisions to make. So with that being said, I try to be a person of integrity. I'm not perfect, but I feel like I need to honor my word. And so tonight I will be voting on the matter. I do have a conflict of interest statement prepared that our legal counsel has prepared. I have not discussed this issue with the other councilmen, anyone, because that's not appropriate. The place to have these discussions is in a public meeting. And that's what I tried to do this evening. Doug, if you feel the statement needs to be read in any shape or form, just to clarify that I am not involved in any real estate actions or what my job actually involves and is actually the farthest from any sort of real estate pecuniary interest profit whatsoever, we're happy to do so. But please don't think that I have come into this decision lightly. I've lost sleep, I've lost weight, which, good thing. But over the last year or so, I tell you what, you don't come to this decision lightly, and making this decision and praying about it and trying to decide, is it the right thing to do? And so I'm going to be a person of my word. I'm going to hold my integrity in what I said I would do. And so, just so everyone is not completely surprised, I will be casting a vote tonight on this matter.
I can hit the high notes. I won't read the whole thing. As Brandy mentioned, she's abstained from voting in the past. Under Robert's Rules of Order, you cannot be forced to vote, and so she's always had that right to abstain. But through prior counsel Ted Nolting, and I have maintained that she's never had a conflict. The statute requires that you have an ascertainable interest in the contract or the financing. And so Brandy's job with Hancock Health is grant funded through the state health department. And so her salary comes from a state grant. It must be spent in line with the terms of that grant. So her funding comes from the state grant. Her potential bonus is a group bonus based on the Hancock, Brandy, what's the name of your division?
I'm sorry?
The division.
Hancock Wellbeing.
The Wellbeing Division. Mm-hmm. And so based on the goals of the Hancock Wellbeing Division, they can achieve bonus for the year. That bonus is not at all in any way tied to any real estate deals or holdings, nor is it the responsibility of Hancock Wellbeing to administer any real estate deals or investments. So Brandy does not have a pecuniary interest in it. Hancock Health has disposed all of the property. Even when they did have the property in the allocation area, they were paying taxes. They weren't getting a benefit from this deal. They never had a pecuniary interest. So Hancock Health does not have a pecuniary interest in this Bakovic TIF, nor does Brandy. She was always able to abstain. She was never required to vote. She did her conscience, but she's also able to vote at this time if she so chooses. And Brandy so kindly signed a sworn statement to those facts as well. So that's the basis of our opinion, and Brandy is free to vote if she so chooses.
I'd like to make a public comment because
as Clint noted, the vote isn't on whether you like the project or the apartments, but the funding, the TIF portion. I was not on the town council when the TIF district was created. It was originally created, I think, primarily for the wellness center, and I hope that everybody would agree and recognize that that's a phenomenal asset to our community. But the council members at that time had the foresight not to limit the TIF district to that property. In fact, they extended the TIF district over 640 acres to the east. And the TIF district in this town runs from the wellness station, wellness center, all the way to CVS Pharmacy on both sides of the road. The purpose of a TIF district is to promote economic development. It's to give a community a financing vehicle, a way to be able to fund infrastructure needs, whether that's the sewer project that we're currently undergoing because we desperately need to increase our sewer plant's capacity. I have said, and there are a lot of new faces here this evening, but for over a year I have harped on the need for sidewalks. I personally do not think any member of this community should be forced to walk inside the traffic barriers west of McDonald's. You are walking on State Road 52. So, like a broken record, I have harped for the very desperate need for sidewalks. And Clint has very, very, very appropriately asked numerous times, how are you going to pay for that? We'll look at any other community in Indiana. Let's go to Morristown, smaller than we are. They make tens of millions of dollars a year in TIF revenue because every single project, anything and everything that is done in the town limits of Morristown are done through a TIF. 100% of development, no matter what it is TIF funded so that they have infrastructure money. Jim Robinson's spearheading an effort to try to do a town center. You have to purchase the real estate, and there's a lot of investment that's required to build something that would include a park, an amphitheater, a place for people to meet, and I know, heaven forbid, a town hall that wasn't a bank. Maybe a building that was meant for public meetings. So there are so many needs and so few ways to fund them. And it's no secret in my daytime life, I'm the in-house attorney for a real estate development company. I am no stranger to TIFs. I have seen how TIFs have been utilized phenomenally to benefit a community. So not for 1 second am I opposed to a TIF project for an investment by a developer who's been vetted by the hospital. The hospital had other developers that they turned down because the quality wasn't there. When Bukovic came, they finally got quality that was a level that next to their state-of-the-art, wonderful wellness center, they said, this works. We would like this to go here. That speaks volumes to me. But then the funding vehicle that would allow us to once and for all have sidewalks from one end of town to another outweigh any detriment. I do not see this, and I've heard this on social media, in the paper, people saying, well, this is corporate welfare, and if the developer can't do it, then let them go somewhere else, and New Pal's good enough, we don't have to subsidize anything. I've heard a lot of things that I don't agree with, and in my personal opinion, we are here to vote our conscience, to vote what we think is right. And so I'm not only in favor of the apartment project for the apartment's sakes, but I'm definitely in favor of it for the funding vehicle that it provides so that we can have the infrastructure that we don't otherwise have a way to pay for.
Any other comments from the board, or the board can ask questions. We have Brian Bosma here that is willing to answer questions on this project, or Buzz Crone if it's a financial inquiry.
You've got the Developers Council.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Alden.
We got everybody here. Any questions for them?
I don't, but I'm going to make my comment now.
Okay.
Before we go for a vote. I've never been against the apartment complex at all. I was against the $5 million TIF. And I was against the $5 million TIF that was presented to us that said $5 million TIF or we're going to walk. I don't think that they need the $5 million TIF. 2.5 was something that I was willing to negotiate with, but that was completely removed from the table and removed pretty much from the council's hands, because from then on out, all correspondences went through KGR and Bill Niemeyer, and the council wasn't always privy to all the information. However, I have issues with the way it was handled and the way the deal was done. And I don't know how many people have been following or reading in the newspapers of trying to decipher what was real and what wasn't in the papers. I didn't agree on how the business was handled. Bill Niemeyer, yes, I understand he's on the RDC, and KGR gave us this very nice statement about how it's okay for him to be on there and okay to vote. What I have a problem with is when he was on the planning commission meeting, before this whole this TIP thing came to light, was the fact that he had property behind Needler's. One of it was for residential. While he was on the planning commission, they presented that, let's see, his employer broke apart the properties and made one residential into 2 commercial, and then split properties along the back, which would give them more buildings and more businesses to bring into that. And then on to the RDC. He should not have been voting on that. He should not have been sitting on the planning commission for that. He should have not had anything to do with that. But the CFO from his employer was presenting. He wasn't presenting correctly, and Bill took it over from there and then called for it for a vote. He should not have been involved at all. At all. But you only put your statement to the RDC. The RDC, he shouldn't be sitting on that either. And if we're all going to listen to the gossip that's in the newspapers, and let's go back when he said that his business associate was not in the TIF district. Well, that's been remedied conveniently when this whole bond thing came to light and he was serving as president, and the members of the board up here can tell you that they weren't always privy to all the information that was going on between Bosma, our town attorney, and Bill. It wasn't shared across the board. So I have a problem with agreeing to something that I don't have all the information to. And when I asked for a separate attorney to come in to read over the documents, that was turned down. And then all the big guns were brought in to kind of explain to everybody about what was going on, but nobody wants to talk about the other dealings that goes with this. We're just going to push that under the rug. We're going to focus on the council members who aren't showing up. We're going to start parading their family members through the newspaper and making all these wrong judgments on them, so they focus on this and not on what the real issue is, which was the shady business in which this was done in, and it wasn't shared with the whole entire council, which is why I will still be abstained from this vote, because we don't have all the information. And I'm not going to vote on something that I don't have all the information for. And if anybody has any questions or they need a documentation to any of this, I'd be happy to provide it for you. However, I can't provide you the documentation that Bill presented to everybody as factual information regarding myself and the things that I had done wrong, because I put in a public request for that as a council member 2 months ago, and I still have not gotten the information, which is a violation to the open door policy, because you presented it in a public meeting as a fact. That probably still needs to be addressed also. So I will be abstaining from this, and I won't be voting on that. And I think everybody else should be questioning on how that business was run also. So I have one more question. Chris, do you have the agenda in front of you? Can't hear you, Chris. There he goes.
Sorry about that. I have it on my phone. I looked at it. I have it in front of me right now. I'm doing the Zoom, so.
Okay, did you look over the stuff that was on the agenda?
Did you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear us? Is it selective on what you can hear and vote on, or can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Did you look over the agenda? And did you read any of the ordinances that were attached to the agenda?
Well, I didn't hear that last part. What?
Did you look at the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Did you look at the included documents in tonight's meeting?
Yeah, briefly, I didn't get a chance to go over them in detail. I didn't look at them until not too long before. I got a lot going on with my other job, so but I didn't scan over them.
Did you look over the approval of the APVs? Did you look through the spending on the APVs? Did you see anything that was questionable on the APVs?
I looked at them. I didn't see anything that was questionable. Do you have anything in particular you're talking about?
No, I was just wondering if you were able to look through all those and if you had any questions.
Mr. President, to put an order, we have a motion on the floor.
I understand that. I'm
This is not
making
relevant.
I don't think that,
silence. I am making a point.
no, I don't have to silence. You interrogating a fellow council
I'm not
member is not
interrogating,
proper.
I am making a point that if you're gonna sit up here and you're gonna vote and you're gonna sit on the council, that you're reading out the information that's given to you before you make a vote.
These
That's all I'm
materials, the
saying.
same materials have been here for a year, including the 4 months that you took off. So you say you don't have the
My 4 months was on a
information.
medical condition. You've just been questioning all that in the newspaper because I don't want to sit here and tell the public what my medical condition is.
All those in favor of ordinance 041923A authorizing a bond issue for Bakovic, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Abstain.
I abstain.
So we have three votes for it, 1 vote against, and 1 abstinence. It
Or
passes.
abstaining.
Well, it's an abstinence from voting.
No, don't say she can't have an alcoholic beverage or other things.
Thanks, guys, for coming. Next item on the agenda is the bond council payment.
I think you can skip that.
You what?
I'll make a motion that we table that item because it just became moot.
It's part of the first one.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'll make a motion that we just table it.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Next item on the agenda is the food truck ordinance.
And I'm sure that is why the crowd is here.
So we have an updated food truck ordinance. Has everybody had a chance to read it?
I have reviewed it, and first of all, I want to thank the committee that helped organize the changes. And I just have one question, because as I read it, there's one scenario that I don't know that it addresses, and maybe Doug, you can help me. And also to the council, if you think it makes a difference, because when you think of a food truck, you think of a transient business, it's not invested in the community, it's here today, gone tomorrow. That, in my opinion, that's what I think of when I think of a food truck. But I know that there's been some concern and some conversation about the food truck that serves Mexican food that parks in front of the old liquor store on Main Street. My question is, does it make a difference if the vendor, the operator of that food truck, also leases the land from the property owner? So they do have an investment in the community, and you know, one of my concerns over the food trucks was that it's not fair to the brick and mortar tenants or businesses. It's kind of an unfair competition that you can come in and you're not paying taxes, you're not paying utilities, you're not paying the things that you would otherwise associate with a brick and mortar location. And it's my understanding that that gentleman rents that entire building, and so, Doug, do we need to, and I guess council members, do we want to consider the fact that the gentleman also rents the land, pays taxes, pays utilities, and he's not just the truck? Does that make a difference to anybody?
Not to me, this ordinance is about food trucks, not who rents who what,
Okay.
in my book. Well, I mean, we can look, I don't even know if everybody's read it, because we've just got it, I don't know, has everybody read it, or? What resolution number would that be?
We will call it 041923B. 041923B.
Do I hear a motion on ordinance 041923B, the food truck ordinance?
Or it's a resolution, but I'll make a motion to approve it as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion on it?
I guess maybe just to answer Bill's question, Section F already required that they have to have written consent from the property owner to operate there. So you guys already contemplated that there was an agreement. Now you've brought up that this is an agreement with payments, but it's already contemplated they had to have an agreement. And I think the issue that the council was initially concerned with was that they were operating in the same place and operating essentially as a brick and mortar without actually putting down those routes. And so the change to Section F says they can't operate in the same place for more than 48 hours in any 1 week period, and then gives an exception that's approved by the town manager in case there's special events or special circumstances where you'd want them to be there for more than 2 days straight.
Doug, could we add in Section F, where it says special event, after the word event, can we put or circumstances? So it doesn't just have to be a singular event.
Well, we have a motion on the table on this ordinance here. So,
Okay, and I think I was the mover of that motion. I would like to amend my motion to move to approve it after the insertion of the words or circumstances in Section F, after the word event and prior to the word by, just so that it covers, I think, what we're trying to cover.
say that again. Yeah.
In F, the bold provisions are the added language, and it says, granted for a special event or circumstances by the town manager. So it's not just an event. There could be other circumstances that would justify allowing somebody to be in one location more than 48 hours in a 1 week period. And I just want to make sure that we have, that way we don't have to amend it later. It covers a wider range of circumstances.
Well, give me an example of some of those special circumstances.
The fact that they are a tenant that pays taxes, utilities, might be a circumstance, but it's not an event. They're not there because of the Lions Festival. They're not there because of something going on at the school. So it's not just the word, right now it says a special event. Well, I don't know if that's so narrow. Does that contemplate, is an event having a lease? And so that's why I think if you add or circumstances, it addresses a concern that it doesn't otherwise, in my opinion.
Well, here's what I say about that. We have in this ordinance that for a special event by the town manager. Now, who wants to make the town manager responsible for the special circumstances?
I'm just saying I don't want to limit it to an event. That's all. It's still his discretion.
Well, we've got a first and a second on the table, and I want to vote on the ordinance the way it's written.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion completely, and if you want to make your own motion, then go right ahead.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 041923B as it's written. Is there a second on that?
I second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed?
Nay.
It's approved 4-1.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? How will we deal with the situation at hand? Because this gentleman has rented that space for a year. You've granted him a year permit, or we have, because he followed all the rules that were set at that time. So how will you deal with that?
I think if you've issued him a permit for a year, you can't change something retroactive.
Yeah, grandfather him and honor that, but yeah.
Doug, are food trucks grandfathered in?
We can.
Food trucks are still the Wild West of the
That's-
U.S. There's a
Yeah.
lot of litigation still going on.
Does that
I would say-
fall under the grandfather rules?
I haven't researched that. My gut would be is that it doesn't. He wasn't granted a license to operate at that location. He was granted a license to operate his food truck in the town of New Pal. And this ordinance change doesn't prohibit him from operating in the town of New Pal. It just says you have to move your truck every once in a while. So he can pay a lease to store his truck at that place and move it every once in a while. So I don't think he would have a lawsuit against the town. Again, this is a question of first impression.
Well, and to answer Yvonne's question, again, I think in the spirit of fairness, he has an expectation when he obtained his permit, and I don't know when it expires, and maybe at that time, different circumstances apply. But me personally, whatever time he has paid for, I think he has paid for, and I don't think it's right to change the rules midstream and say you have to leave every other day. Because for that matter, he can start the truck up, drive around the block, and say, I'm back. I mean, if you want to start playing games, so what are we really trying to accomplish?
Well, we passed this ordinance, and the only discussion we have is if that truck is grandfathered in, and I don't think it is under the Indiana code.
Okay,
But I'll be welcome to Doug's legal opinion.
Well, Yvonne was asking for the council's opinion as to how do we want to address his specific situation, because he cares enough to come in here and ask. He wants to follow our rules.
And
Yes.
he actually called to pay again, thinking that it was due again, and that wasn't changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I apologize for saying the word grandfather. Let's erase, rewind. I never said grandfather, so let's address,
Yeah, just
how do we
so
want to
know
honor?
what to tell him. I mean, he's committed there for a year, and we approved that because he ticked off all of, he showed his insurance, and the health department had paid him, and all, he promised $25, and, filled out the paperwork. I mean,
So I'll make a motion that we honor the permit that we issued to him for the duration that we issued it for.
which is 1 year.
Well,
Now, wait, we need a second and a vote. It's not just up to me.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Brandy, I think, seconded first.
He can have it. I mean, he can have it if he wants. He's on delay a little bit, so.
Okay, is there any discussion on Bill's motion? The only thing I say is we just passed the food truck ordinance, and I think we ought to honor it.
I agree with you. There's a gray area, and then everybody's going to want to wade into the gray area, so.
I mean, if you want to pass another food truck ordinance next meeting or something, but this food truck ordinance passed this meeting. So
Point of
I
order,
don't know how Bill's motion would be viable according to our food truck ordinance.
We issued them a permit
Prior
based on
to.
the ordinance that was in place
Yes,
at the time.
at the time.
We issued him a permit to operate a food truck.
Clint,
Based
can
on
we,
the information.
can we call the question?
Well, I don't know why we're
We have a motion that's been
Okay.
made and seconded. And I think we should vote on it.
Okay, we can vote on
Do we know
it.
how long is, when does that 1 year?
Late
Do we have
October.
that information?
Isn't
Yeah,
it late
in
October,
fall.
September, or November,
I don't know. the-
October,
We think November.
I don't know.
Hey Doug, your legal opinion, what's your take on it?
Again, this question I just got, my first impression though is that the town issued a permit to operate a food truck. It didn't issue a permit to operate a food truck in any particular area. The ordinance that was passed, and I think it was the explicit intention from working with Clint and the previous conversation, is that we didn't want somebody parking in one spot and operating there for a period of time. This would require him, he could still keep his lease and operate there for 48 hours, and then he'd have to move his truck. And the ordinance allows for you to park on a public street or other private property, and he could operate on a public street. It just requires that a mobile food truck actually be mobile and move. So first impression, again, I haven't looked at any case law because we just asked it, but I think this town would not, that he would not be successful in suing the town if they enforce this ordinance. Another point is that ordinance violations are discretionary. Chief can probably attest to, every time you pull somebody over, you don't have to issue a ticket, do you, Chief? No. So there's discretion in enforcement. I don't know that you need to make a formal exception to the rule right now. It could just be not enforced for the remainder of the year, but
Yeah, and I was just
That's my
trying
legal
to
opinion.
address Yvonne's question in a way that it isn't discretionary, there's no gray area, and we give the guy a definitive answer. That's all I'm trying to do, because again, I think it's what's fair to do.
Well, he can operate his food truck, he's just going to have to move it. We're not telling him he can't operate his food truck in New Pal, he just has to move it.
and I'm sorry, I guess the second part of my legal analysis is that, yes, there is a motion on the floor that the town could grant an exception for the year if they pass this motion that Bill has made.
So is the motion to grant, I'm full of motions now. So is the motion now to grant an exception to him to fulfill his permit which existed prior to the passage of this ordinance? Is that what's on the table?
Yes, it is to honor the permit that we issued without requiring that he move every 48 hours.
Well, we're
Until the
we're
end.
already honoring the permit that was issued.
Well, but the way this is worded, somebody could go down there tomorrow, as apparently somebody did, or that's what was on social media, and tell him to leave. And I'm trying to avoid that. That's all. And then come November when it's up, then he knows, he's had advance notice. He didn't have advance notice, and we issued him a 1-year permit. Again,
To operate a food truck.
exactly, and I'm not looking to split hairs, I'm trying to do,
I know,
in
I'm
my
not looking to
opinion,
you
what's
either, but
fair.
you keep splitting hairs. So,
I just want to be fair.
let's vote on this. Everybody in favor of Bill's exception, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So Bill's exception passes, but it doesn't have anything to do with the food truck ordinance that we just passed.
Still clear as mud.
I'd be happy if he drove the truck down, he could park in front of my house, and I would have some friends over.
Can I second?
Yeah, we'll have a Girl Scout taco party with cookies, and he wants moving around
And
every
quesadillas.
couple days, hey. But
Next item on the agenda is presentation of the total eclipse by New Palestine Main Street. It's an event that's going to happen April 8th, 2024, and they're trying to prepare the town for it.
So, yes, thank you, Clint, and I'm Carl Boss. I just provided an introduction and explain what we're doing.
And your address.
And my address, 5099 West Tumbleweed Court, New Palestine. Actually, I'm only here by way of doing an introduction for our two folks that have had first-hand experience with the total eclipse. They're going to give you a presentation. I think we're going to put Chris in the dark. Yes, thank you. This is something that's not a maybe. This is going to happen to our community in about a year. Main Street is trying to get out front, not as an organizing, this is not going to be one of our events. We're a convening agent. That's all we are. The idea is to make you as a community, as a town, aware of what's coming, what is possible as far as numbers of people, economic impact, and how you might want to be prepared. So the only thing I'm asking for is awareness and attention. Clint came to our last meeting. Our next meeting is on May the 9th at 7 p.m. in the Nichols Building. Any and all are welcome to attend as we try to learn from different organizations what Southern Hancock School is going to do on that date, what Brookville Road Community Church is going to do on that date, what the Lions Club is going to do on that date, and how we work together. And as we promote this, that's going to invite numbers of people. So again, Clinton, I appreciate you being at our last meeting. I hope that you're at our next. Jim was at our last meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Inskeep and Michelle Bloomer, both who have experienced this in person.
Hello.
We need your name and address.
Okay, Jamie.
Okay.
Both of us?
Yeah.
Okay, Jamie Inskeep, 6802 West Rockwood Lane, Palestine.
Michelle Bloomer, 3453 South Applegate Drive, Boston.
So I am a former Southern Hancock teacher. Michelle is a current Southern Hancock teacher. And back in 2017, we were both teaching science and math, and got a grant from the Lilly Endowment to travel to different space centers across the country. And so it just sparked our interest in space. And then we learned about the total solar eclipse that was in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And a lot of you may remember from 2017 when we had a partial solar eclipse here, when glasses were hard to come by, and the kids got to have a party at school and got to view it. We got to go to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and see it in all of its glory in 100% totality. So I wanted to share a little bit about what our experience was and what we can expect as a town coming up in April 8, 2024. So those of you that may not know, total solar eclipse is when the sun, the moon, and the earth line up, and then the moon completely blocks the sun, so it becomes complete darkness. And when we reach totality, the entire, when I say darkness, you can barely see your hand in front of your face. It's the middle of the night, the stars come out, the nighttime animals come out, the sounds, it feels colder instantly. It is a remarkable experience that is truly once in a lifetime. So we do have a little bit of a, I'll let Michelle go here. I don't know if we can actually play a video on here. We're gonna, my text friend.
Oh, tech
Let them
friend.
play.
Need tech friend.
So this is a video from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and we had our children at the time. We rented a space, 10 by 10 space. It was $50. Drove down there, and it was phenomenal. So their reactions are kind of captured on this, and I don't know if it'll play.
I feel like a little disclaimer, my husband does play with mine a little bit, so I do want to give that disclaimer.
So kind of, the whole process will take over an hour, but you can kind of see.
I know.
Just try to skip over. And you can hear the crowd.
Oh, wow.
And it's not there quite yet.
In Kentucky. Yeah. It's going to be more back there. We're having a party. Yeah. Look how dark it is.
And the camera really wouldn't allow it to go pitch
Yeah, well, here in
black.
a moment, I will kind of focus it, and you'll see how dark it really is.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This was in the middle of August. It was
It's about 1 o'clock in the
about 1
afternoon.
o'clock, yeah. And can you hear the
crickets.
So like, I'm like showing my kids right now, and you can't even see them.
But if you look at the optimum viewing places for this total eclipse, Indianapolis is one of the top 10 viewing places, and it's a narrow path. Well, how wide is the path? Like 44 miles or something like
I
that?
have a visual to show you how.
But we are directly in the path for the total eclipse, and
I saw in your video that they had painted or roped off 10 by 10 spaces, and you said you rented that for $50?
Yes.
I think the first bit of sidewalk can be funded by our entire parking lot. Ka-ching!
Like $30 million, are you interested? Because we can get it for you.
Sold.
We'll explain how.
Anyway, if you kind of research this on the internet, you'll see that there's a lot of people that want to see the solar eclipse that aren't from here.
Well, and I can piggyback because the Hancock County Economic Development Commission is already gearing up for this event. You know, they expect millions of dollars to come into the community. Every hotel room's going to be rented. I mean, this is a big event. And you do have the opportunity to bring in a lot of people and revenue.
We're going to skip ahead a little bit. We'll come back to these slides that I'm skipping because it makes a little bit more sense to have them in a different order. So this goes with some of the statistics from Hopkinsville. I've been in contact with the tourism director there who was in charge of this. And I went to their Facebook page. They have planned that they started their first post for the 2017 eclipse was in 2012. And so, I mean, for 5 years, they built it up and they hired, her name is Brooke Jung, and they hired her that was her sole job. And it was really remarkable, all of the players that were in it and the amount of planning and getting the word out there and so forth. So their population is about 30,000. It's comparable to I would say, New Palestine, at least our Sugar Creek Township, or our school services. They had 116,000 visitors. Their totality was 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Ours is 3 minutes 59 seconds. So, and that seems like, we were talking about this seems like, what difference does that make? That's not that much. That time goes by so fast, and to have an extra minute plus is huge, so it's going to be wonderful. Their economic revenue, $28.5 million is what they predicted, and we have some things here, so we're thinking about what kind of resources we have that they maybe didn't have, and vice versa. So we can kind of think about where that revenue can come from. T-shirt sales are huge. Selling glasses is huge. Souvenirs, like crazy, land, plots of land. Because this is on a Monday, it was also actually on a Monday there, they had an entire weekend celebration. So it doesn't have to be, we're gonna plan this big thing for a 5-minute experience. You could have something Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, leading into Monday. And it is not something that you can just, okay, it's gonna happen about 3 o'clock, okay, we'll start getting ready at 2:45. We gotta way before, like it dawn, to make our drive and get there in time. So it's something definitely we need to plan for. Over 50 media outlets from across the world, 101 private airplanes flew in the regional airport, and they quoted as saying, being a path of totality is like hitting the cosmic lottery, and it really, really is.
So, a few things to consider for where we're at. Obviously, like we mentioned before, the date is April 8th, 2024, so we're slightly under a year. This will be the first in over 800 years for the town of New Palestine. So over 800 years ago was the last one that New Palestine experienced. And we will not be in this path again until the year 2153. So literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's 129 years from now. So our children, our children's children, this is truly a once in a lifetime opportunity for our community. The start time will be at 1:50 p.m. So that's when it will initially start, and you'll start to see a cutout of the sun with the moon begins to block it. And then the actual totality will begin at 3:06. So it's a long process to get from that partial into that total. And then, like we mentioned before, it's 3 minutes and 59 seconds of totality. To give you a little bit of reference, in Indianapolis, it'll be 3 minutes and 7 seconds. So we obviously have several seconds up on them. And then to kind of compare it to other areas in our county, Recordsville will have 3 minutes 47. Greenfield 3:59, so that's going to be our biggest, I guess, competitor. They have all the hotels, they have all the restaurants, they have all the stuff. So the people who, when that gets overcrowded and full, they're going to come to Palestine because we have the exact same amount of totality. And then, like I mentioned before, Indy is 3:07, and the very most that you can get is 4 minutes and 1 second. And so eclipse chasers is what they're known as. Their full-time job is to chase eclipses. If you think about storm chasers, some of you are laughing, it's a thing, and they will come, I promise you, because they will follow that path, and they want to get as much totality as possible. They have records that they hold, and they want to get as much of that time as possible, so they will spend their entire day traveling on that path of totality. So whether they're coming for the day or they're passing through, they will be coming. And then also, you can kind of see on the map, so you can see how it passes through Indiana. Some counties will have 0 totality, or they won't have the full totality. So the red portion, from the red line on the north to the south, is the total path of totality. The blue line in the center is the most, so that's your 4 minutes and 1 second. So I put a sun where New Palestine is, so you can kind of see people are already researching, already trying to find places to stay along that path and places to visit throughout the day.
Yeah, hotels in Greenfield just now started booking out. They kind of hit that window. So they're expecting, they already had calls coming in before they were actually taking reservations. So it's coming. We stayed in Evansville and drove into Hopkinsville, and that's definitely something that we foresee. You might stay outside of it, but when it comes down to where you want to view the eclipse, it's generally, it's not going to be a big city. Like, you really want to get out a little bit. So, that could be, we're an easy drive. In fact, they said this because where Indiana's located and where this path is, we are within a day's drive of half the U.S. population, or the continental U.S. So it could be big. So other areas that we know of, and there's more every day. There's more. Hamilton County, Carmel is doing something very big. We've heard their schools are already closed. Department of Natural Resources, Franklin. My college roommate teaches in Franklin. She said, "Oh yeah, that's been on the calendar. We scheduled that day off, and we have there's a link to a placeholder for their activities, and as they build what they're doing, they're going to post on the eclipse24.org site. Terre Haute already has a tagline, a slogan for theirs.
Total eclipse of the hope.
So We need some kind of suggestion. The Holcomb Observatory at Butler is hosting programs. State Fairgrounds has tons of camping available. Conner Prairie, also, all that land, they can host a ton of people, either for camping or just for educational programs. And then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was recently named an official partner of NASA, and NASA's coming in and doing live broadcasting in Speedway. So it's coming, and there's a plan. There's already an Indiana. There's on the first slide a logo that Indiana has. It's not well known yet out there, but it's there. So some considerations for our community, because what everybody else is doing may or may not be feasible for what we want our town to be. But we have a really, really good opportunity, and if we are really intentional about marketing it, getting the word out there, it can be a really successful event and safe event, because like you said, they're going to come. We have heard of people on the middle of the interstate going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and they just stop and it's gridlocked, and they get out of their cars and they're looking at this thing. So we, from a safety standpoint, of course, we don't want that on Highway 52 or anything like that. So one of our considerations that's really important is, first of all, growing interest and awareness, knowing what it is, what the potential implications of it are. Facility and land area usage. What do we have to offer people? How do we work together? Like Mr. Boss said, with all of the different entities here, and so that we're on the same page. So we don't have some churches doing this and the Wellness Center doing that, and Sugar Creek Park and the Lions Club and all of that. Resurfacing project, road closures. We hear there's going to be one from like Morristown, like out to the interstate. So how does that factor in? What's the timing of that? Can we get a road closed? Is it necessary to close the road in 52? These are all just questions that we have. In downtown New Paltz, do we make that a hub? Do we do shuttle services? Hopkinsville has shuttle services to some of their sites where people camped, and then they had more of a centrally located kind of celebration, like in town. Their town kind of looked a little bit like the courthouse, area in Greenfield. And then traffic patterns, parking zones, any legal documents that we would need in event guidelines and regulations. Those sort of things. A lot of education, as a teacher, we talk about, we don't have students go out and before we go out to recess say, don't look at the sun. Like, it's kind of a given thing that you just don't do. But there is some safety concerns. There's an appropriate time to look at the sun and a time to wear the glasses, etc. Okay. First aid stations, restroom facilities, already food trucks, since I was mentioned. They're on high. They're already reserving them for their areas. Food trucks and porta potties. Those are going to be two huge necessities.
Yes.
That will be difficult to get if we wait too long, if we want to go that route. I don't know. I know I've talked to people just kind of half joking, but not really joking, that they're going to turn their house into a Airbnb, and they're going to rent out their front lawn. And so that happens. So it's a possible thing. And then what kind of festivals might we want to host that day, or do we want to turn this into a weekend? Shuttle service I already mentioned. School dismissal and safety, that's one thing that is kind of hinges on our plans. School, because of the time that totality hits at 3:06, our buses are en route. Our high school, junior high, intermediate school buses are en route. It's the end of the day. Elementaries are packing up. I'm not sure how this will work. Before our school district approved the calendar, it was brought to their attention, and it was kind of like, oh, we'll kind of wait and see, kind of figure it out, which is okay until it comes. And so we need a plan for sure. So that will impact greatly what happens and what we're able to do and what our safety looks like. And then perhaps, I know Hopkinsville did this, maybe have some public forums to educate people, in person, online, stream it, whatever. And it would be great to have some kind of ongoing educational series. Take your earth and science teachers from the high school, or people that have a passion, like we do in taught science, and educate some people so that they're getting a piece, kind of like as a teacher going through your curriculum, and then being able to experience it real world at a field trip. It's kind of like what we're gonna do. Like, I would love to see us kind of educate, and then experience it. So that's kind of where, just some ideas, considerations that I have.
Almost done. So things we have currently planned, we are planning to recruit more people to help in our efforts and leadership in the planning. We need, obviously, police involved, we need the town, we need the chamber, we need churches, schools, community groups, and anybody and everybody who wants to come, because we want it to be a cooperative effort. What we don't want to see is it start to be competitive between different groups, trying to get more money or trying to get more people. We want to work collaboratively to make sure that we're creating the very best experience for everybody in our community. And then we need to create a safety plan, because we need to be proactive and not reactive. Like we keep saying, they're coming, so we need to plan for it. And make sure that safety is number one priority during the process. And then we need to present to the school board. So we'll be doing that next month, presenting to the school board and hopefully getting that day closed from school so that we can have a virtual learning day instead of in school that day. We need a logo, as we mentioned. We need a slogan. So we can start campaigning and putting ourselves out there. We do have a landing page, so eclipse2024.org. It has every single city listed that's in totality, so we're already there. There's already a link, but when it goes there, it just says, like, if you are in the town of New Palestine, please contact us for all of the information to include of the things that you have planned. So it's already there. We just have to provide them all that information so that when people are planning now, they'll see that's an option and they'll see what is available to them in our town. Some subcommittees we'll need to work on getting some subcommittees planned. And then, like I mentioned, that landing page specifically for Eclipse Chasers, because they go straight to that website. A real benefit is we found out the one who runs eclipse2024.org is an Indiana resident. So that is helpful, and we'll be able to work directly with him. And then souvenirs, of course. Once we get our slogan, we have our logo, and then getting souvenirs in place.
And then this is just, I reached out to Hopkinsville, that Brooke Jung, who I had talked about earlier, and her reply to me was like over the top enthusiasm for our city. Jamie had learned that even though they're not in totality, they may take the day off anyway so that they can come and see it where it is, because it's that impactful. So anyway, so her words to us were, congratulations on being selected by the universe to be in the moon's shadow during the April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse. I can assure you this celestial event is something your community will never forget. I hope that 2023 is a wonderful one for your community and that you truly embrace the excitement in store for your beautiful city. Making those key preparations will make a world of difference to eclipse chasers, or umbrophiles as they are known, during this once-in-a-lifetime event. So in closing, it's just really about, again, educating and really empowering us to make this what we want it to be. Because a year, 2 years, 5 years, if you go to their Facebook page, and I can share that, they're still celebrating it, and they're still recapping it, and they're still remembering what it was. Hey, 5 years ago. Hey, this is the anniversary of our eclipse in 2017. And they'll show clips and highlights, and there's news reports after news reports. So it's something that they prepared for well in advance, and they're still riding, that excitement.
She actually added that they have new residents of Hopkinsville that came to visit during the eclipse and loved the feel of the town so much that they moved their families there. So it definitely made an impact on their community. And for the same thing for us.
She offered. That's right. She offered to train us for a 1 hour session. Like they're making money off this.
They're still making money off.
$500 for a 1 hour training session. $2,000 if they come here. Yeah, and they would share like their whole plan and everything. So I mean, and there are people that are paying that, because it was so well organized when we got there. We felt safe. We knew where we were going. It was and so anyway, we would just want to provide that same level of professionalism and planning that they did.
When I first saw they were having the meeting to talk about this, I just did very little research on the internet. And that's where, I found out that Indianapolis was one of the top 10 locations that they were calling out. But there was examples, this is going through a certain part of Texas, I don't know where, but there's a small town in Texas of 434 people, but they have all kinds of room. You know what I mean? There's nothing else there. And they're expecting 160,000 people. So,
And
you know, now we don't have the accommodations for that, the camping or anything like that to accommodate that number of people, but just an example of what people are expecting from this solar eclipse.
And like us, people will stay in a hotel 30 minutes away and they'll drive to Palestine. That's what I think we were 45 minutes away, and that was no problem for us because it was a little less busy to be able to stay a little bit further.
And we did go down in the hotel lobby, and people that waited knew well more than us. You know, seriously, we're turning things out and getting their path.
It felt like we were in a movie. It was our kids were just staring, like, these maps out, and the forecast, and like just trying to like plot out the whole plan.
And unfortunately, we can't predict, of course. You know, it might be cloudy here. It could, hopefully not, rain. But you have to be prepared for it. And you'll see it. It won't be as magnificent. It's not clear. But you will see it. And if those people are committed to coming, even if they don't, not everybody comes that maybe had planned to come here. It will still be a big crowd. And as far as marketing, thinking about, you want to get the downtown life. You want to, be on Georgia Street, or you want to be at the Motor Speedway, whatever. Do that over the weekend, and then when it comes time, you probably want to be a little bit overall. So there's still a good incentive to come.
May 9th, 7 p.m., Nichols Building. If you're in a church, an organization, come and join us, be a part of the effort. Like I said, the stadium is all about awareness, so don't be left in the dark.
Thank you.
Oh, he's good.
Next item on the agenda is Summerfest US 52 road closure and alcohol permit. I don't know, I don't think we have any jurisdiction over that.
I am Julie Lucas with New Palestine Main Street, and Summerfest will be upon us very quickly, June 23rd and 24th, and we are working closely with NDOT, and Steve Poole's helping with that as well. We'll involve the county highway. We will be shutting down 52 again this year, and it will be shut down early on Friday morning so that we can get vendors and spaces marked off, and we will reopen by noon on Sunday. So we'll make sure the neighborhoods know to use the alleyways and such. So we usually need to come to council and have that approval as well. And with that, we always have our Summerfest, we have our music events, which we also have our beer garden and temporary beer and wine permits. And then we have Music on Depot, which we've moved to Saturdays this year, starting in July. So July, August, September, it'll be the fourth Saturday of those months. And we'll have our alcohol permits at our beer garden for that as well. So that is why I am here this evening to ask Chief Ely and the council for permission to have our alcohol temporary permits and also just to approve the closure of 52.
Julie, will they have us parking at school this year?
As far as I know, we got notified last year about 2 weeks that they were going to be doing a paving project, so I hope those are all finished. It worked out well that they were completed, so we should be good on that.
What about the paving on Main Street?
NDOT has advised me that they're not going to interrupt our festival, that they are going to work around and either have it completed or to a point that it will not interfere that weekend.
Julie, you may want to reach out to the schools. I think they're going to go from the back construction back to the front. In the summertime, the school's out. I think they still got more to finish on the front side.
Okay.
Just check.
Okay, we'll double check that. Thank you.
Well, to the extent you need consent from the council to close the street, Bob, is it too early to do that now, or can we go ahead and?
You can give approval anytime you want. It's your account. You guys can approve to close the streets down as long as NDOT's okay with everything. Usually they'll just, it's probably perfect this time, right? Because 2 days.
Yes, and I have a copy of the letter like what you did for
Yeah.
emergency contact and then everybody's
Yeah,
on board.
you guys just get permission for them to use the town for your Summerfest. Then as far as the alcohol permit goes, it's just if you guys are okay with it, I sign off on it. We've never had issues in the past, but we're okay with it. So whatever council wants.
Okay, but 52 will be closed Friday and Saturday?
Friday morning, usually about 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock through noon on Sunday.
Okay. Well, I did check my calendar, and
Park it at-
Saturday
park it at parking lot on the
morning
north
is
side.
when I return from fishing in Canada, but no problem. I'll park it on the north side and we'll walk home. No problem. So I'll make a motion that we approve closing 52 both Friday and Saturday for Summerfest, and that as a council, we give consent for an alcohol permit. We don't issue it, but you need our
The state
consent.
issues it.
So
Is there a second to that motion?
Are we bringing Chris back before we start doing votes?
Where is Chris?
yeah.
We're not putting him back on, or?
Or we can connect him back?
I don't know.
Hey, Bill, can you amend that to the 26th, that's Sunday till noon, close the road, right?
It'd be 25th.
That'd be 25th.
23rd is it,
The 23rd is a Friday, 24th is Saturday, and to include Sunday,
Sunday
Till
till noon.
noon.
oh, yes, I amend my motion through Sunday at noon.
Thank you.
Even though I won't be able to get home from Canada, that's okay.
Last year, we actually had it open by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, so we'll strive to be early, but
Sure.
we moved portalets out of over.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Okay, are we gonna get Chris back on here or not?
I don't think we need to, but,
Yeah, we do.
I think we should try.
okay.
That's you, that's not Chris.
It is.
Wait a minute,
I think he
I
knows.
recognize that pocket.
Hopefully he knows. Has he been hanging out?
No, he was booted off when I ended the meeting earlier.
Okay.
Oh.
I think Jim is sending him a message to rejoin if he can and wants to. So if he does, he'll pop up.
Okay, thank you.
You know,
And so, again, I really appreciate the fact that people can pop up there. Thank you.
So do we need a motion to,
Well, I made a
Bill made a
motion
motion.
the road closing?
from Friday through Sunday at noon.
Okay,
But was it seconded?
I second it.
yeah,
Okay.
Well, we can take a vote, and if we have enough votes, we don't
Yeah.
need Chris,
I
so.
think this is.
All in favor, vote by
Wait.
saying aye.
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 Second.
Opposed? Approved, 4-0.
That works. Angie.
What else you got there for us?
Oh, the alcohol.
Oh, and that, my motion
It
included
included,
that.
okay, I
Yeah, absolutely.
Based, I've got it with me, and you want to.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Bill.
The next item on the agenda is Kroger, Gardis, and Regus Legal Service Agreement renewal. That's the KGR renewal contract.
Did you want me to speak on that, Clint?
Well, looking at you,
Sure, Doug.
Doug, what does this mean?
In the past couple meetings, there's counselors have been requesting that attorneys be here every meeting. Back in 2022 or 2021, it was negotiated with Ted that we would only attend one meeting a month because of the work that all the work that we were doing on the RDC Plan Commission, just the volume of work that had ramped up at the current rate. So what was sent to you is same form as you've executed, I believe even before KGR, of contract. The proposal is to go to an hourly rate, which would allow both sides to kind of regulate the work better. You'd only pay for what you got. I know Yvonne had mentioned that there could be some concern with budgeting. Part of the benefit, I think, of hourly and dividing up the budget, RDC is going to start pulling in money. They will have their own budget to pay, and so they can more appropriately gauge their spend. The Plan Commission, you guys will pull in money through applications, and there's fees that are attached to the Plan Commission where it may be more appropriate to kind of track the Plan Commission work on its own. And then I spend a fair amount of time working with staff aside from working with council on different issues. And so I know other units will actually have the staff, clerk treasurer usually has a budget and has a line for their council so that Yvonne could manage her spend. So that was a proposal we put out there. I don't want to negotiate in a public meeting, but if you have questions, we can certainly work through it, and maybe if you're interested in this, I'd be happy to proceed with this, or maybe appoint somebody to kind of represent the council, and we can come up with a finalized agreement.
Well, my first question on this, Doug, was you gave us a price of $295 an hour. Is the phone consultation the same price?
I mean, yeah, talking on the phone, it's $295 an hour for the work. Yeah. So if we're talking law over the phone and I'm researching and you're expressing questions, then that would be considered part of the work. If Angie and I are talking about how our dogs are doing, I'm not going to charge you for that.
We put her down last week.
Sorry to hear that.
Has everybody seen this legal services agreement? And I think everybody agreed that we wanted to have a lawyer here for all our meetings.
Yes.
What is the current rate? Is it 30 a year, 25 a year? What?
$2,500 per month. Plus, you know, for litigation, hourly.
Doug, have you done any analysis to see at the current contract rate, based on last year's service, what do you think that equated to an hourly rate?
It was much lower than this. I don't have that number. Ted would have it. Significantly lower than this. And that's part of the reason why we agreed to a flat rate. And that's not uncommon to do a flat rate at first to see where it shakes out. If we're doing significantly more work, then we will say, hey, flat rate is not working for us. We have overhead expenses that we have to cover. Or if it's the opposite way, then we'll let you guys know as well, hey, you guys are spending more, and we reassess that. So we're kind of in that reassessment period.
So would Grover, Gardis, and Regis consider a flat rate but at a different amount? I'm just mindful of Yvonne's concern about budgeting. You know, peaks and valleys in budgets are not the best if you can avoid it.
Yeah, and I think we would consider a flat rate. I mean, budgets, I assume most, if not all of us, live on a budget, and so if my budget is, my wife puts me on an eating out budget, and if I eat out too much early in the month, then I need to stop eating out later in the month, and so, and they say, hi honey, I'm going to go over budget, in which case they'd come and ask for additional appropriation. So it's managing your expenses. So I completely understand Yvonne's concern.
In this case, I am budgeting taxpayers' money. It's a little different than my eating out budget. I mean, I take it seriously that we, stay within budget, and it's hard to do that anyway. So I would be in favor of a flat rate from my perspective.
Well, would you want to come back with this contract or a flat rate contract?
Sure. I mean, I will come back with a flat rate contract. Would it be you and I can talk, Clint, or do you want to appoint somebody that we can discuss so we can come back with something that at least one council member has bought in on, and present that at the next meeting?
Well, I think if we're
I don't want to negotiate in a public meeting, so I'd rather have somebody talk to me, and happy to discuss a flat rate.
Well, I mean, I'll discuss it with you, but I don't know. Really, I also need to discuss it with Yvonne to see how our budget is and everything else. So, I think the best thing would be to table this till the next meeting. And
in the meantime, do we want to appoint one person to be the point person to talk to Doug and Yvonne and kind of spearhead the negotiations?
And I think I would add Jim as well. There's a lot of zoning development work that we should pull in on as well. So it's thinking about the amount of the volume of work that you expect, because I think that can help develop a budget. We can say a flat rate of X, but if all of a sudden you need me to work 100 hours in a month, it's something that changes.
There needs to be a situation in there. Well, I would volunteer to be the point person if that's agreeable. I mean,
No, I won't agree to that.
well, that's fine. As an attorney, I may have a little bit of knowledge about how things are billed.
Duly noted, I still say no.
That's fine. You're one person.
well, another thing to consider here is when we find out this price or we know this other price and what we think it's going to cost, is it in our advantage to go out and bid this out with other legal firms?
Well, see, and that's where I think that a point person should be designated so that we're not having these kinds of negotiations in public. I don't think that's the proper place for it.
At this point, I'm not in favor of bidding out for other, I've raised a concern for months and months and months that there are meetings where legal counsel is not present. And according to a contract that was agreed to that, I'm not sure who agreed to it, several months ago, last year, that because of all the meetings and litigation and everything we're doing that, it wasn't keeping up with the rate they were being paid. I get it, but then it became they weren't at every meeting, and I don't have to give, too many examples to be fair. I've talked about this, about it to Doug. We've talked about it. How many times should we have had legal counsel here to ask questions, and then we make decisions or things happen, and then if we had our legal counsel, I don't want to bid this and wait, any longer. I want to move forward. And personally, I'm fine with our legal counsel that we have. I don't want to bid this out. I don't want to make this another 2 months. I don't want to have to negotiate, and beg, well, next 2 weeks isn't really your week, but will you be here anyway, even though it's not your normal week to be here? Based on our current schedule, with all due respect, we need to get this handled as soon as possible and move on. And I don't know what the survey is. I don't know if the survey says 80% of municipalities pay a flat rate and 20 pay hourly. I don't know. But I think that in the purview, I think it should be the council president, not to volunteer you, but the council president, because of that status, figuring this out with our legal counsel and moving forward. But I don't want to
I'm willing to do that, but I'm just saying that in case the flat rate is something that we don't think we could budget or isn't budgeted, and then what would we do next?
All right, so I'll make a motion that we table this matter to the next meeting and that we appoint Clint as the point person to talk with Doug and Yvonne and Jim and see what you come up with as a proposal.
I'll second that. Any other discussion right now?
I do, real quick before voting. Doug, do you have even an example, or like, say, this many counties or municipalities you represent, and this percentage is flat and this one's hourly?
You and one other, there's one other one we have is it's actually a blended rate, so it's partial flat rate, and if you go over a certain amount of time, then it's billed by the hour. So there's one blended, and then you guys are the only flat rate that I'm aware of that we
So
have.
the majority is hourly?
Well, majority is hourly.
And
Yeah.
that's what I understand from other communities, so
Mhm.
I have no problem moving it hourly, and I know there's a concern over could it cross this budget, could it do this, but we could address it should it get to that point. And with all due respect, one of the main issue that has been consuming the majority of those legal dollars perhaps is moved on, you know, to be polite. So can we,
We have a motion. In a second.
okay.
And I think, just to that point real quick, I think that if we go through this process of thinking through what Jim looks like they think he thinks he'll need on his side, Yvonne, and then the council, I've spoken to a couple of you about, I think there needs to be a process where that group, the president of the council and town manager and Yvonne have regular meetings a week prior to the council meeting. And I wish Dale was here so I could tip my hat to him so we can address some of these little issues that have come up over the time so that we're all prepared and on the same page. And so that may take a little bit more time than what we're used to doing, but I think in doing so, we'll be more prepared for our regular meetings. They'll run smoother, and there's more transparency, and it's just a better process for the town. So there's status quo, and then there's more.
All those in favor of continuing this to the next meeting and getting further information, getting further information, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Okay, I'm aye, I'm not no, so for the sake of the spirit of the
Okay.
movement, I'm aye.
Okay, we're going to get more information and bring this back at the next meeting.
Doug, will you come to the next meeting still?
I always come when asked.
Okay, all right, thank you. Don't make me worry about it.
Next thing on the agenda is department reports, and Chief Ely is the first on the agenda.
Hey, big thanks to Scott Wells. We're upgrading our camera system on the police side. We've had an interview room, we've had time, and it's got pretty grainy watching the video, so Scott's updating us because it's all today what it needs to be. We've also done, like Tom Manager Robinson has in his room, we've taken the security cameras off my computer and actually put them on the wall, so I don't have to work around them all day long. So thanks, Scott, appreciate that. We should be having our new squad car started this month, getting built. All the equipment's been ordered for it, so hopefully we can have it up and operational by next month. Other than that, business as usual.
Thanks, Bob.
Oh, yeah, access
How about you, Jim?
sprained his toe
Oh,
So is he out of commission?
for a week. Yeah. He'll be back.
You're next on the agenda, Jim.
In the first week, second week in May, we'll have our first design meeting with Commonwealth on its certified. So, look forward to that. That's it.
Jim, you said it was the second week in May?
Second week in May.
Second meeting?
Second week in May.
Second week, okay. All of those would be Wednesday, or? You don't know?
I don't know yet.
Okay, all right.
Steve, what do you got for us?
Well, just community crossings, we were fortunate enough to get that again. It's going to be the Cedar Creek subdivision. This project's going to go past the $150,000 threshold, so I need to have drawings. So far, I've got two prices from consulting firms on drawings. One price is $3,000, the other price is $16,500. So I'd like to, with your permission, go ahead and, I don't think we're going to we're not gonna get anybody cheaper than $3,000 to do a set of drawings, so I'd like to go ahead and give the okay to the one firm.
You need our approval for that tonight, Steve?
I think that's above my discretionary, so,
So you've had two estimates, and one was 3,000 and one was 16,000.
well,
Could you have
it's
General
Strand, and they're
Electric
doing
quote that or
they're
what?
also doing the construction inspection with the roundabout, so, you know, maybe, you know, that helped with their price a little. So.
Do you think that lower bid is competent?
Yeah, it'll be done by an engineer. It's just a standard cross-section and,
Get the cheap one.
of a road, an inch and a half, mill and repave, and then, a standard drawing of a curb ramp. Not a lot there. I tried to do it on a Word document, but I couldn't.
I'll move that we approve that expenditure.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on it?
And what I mean is the cheaper bid.
$3,000.
Yes.
That's assumed.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Get your plans drawn, Steve.
Will do.
Anything else?
Please.
Well, just NDOT's gonna be, you know, they're knocking at the door. People have noticed on the east end of town, they're gonna be rolling through here in the next couple of days. They're gonna start with the patching, down to 600, they'll go down and then come back, get the patching done, then they're gonna do the 88, every 88 curb ramp along Main Street, between 450 and 500. And then, after that, I'm sure they'll take a break and let us do our Summerfest. And then from Morristown to I-465, there'll be a mill and repave, so. And that's it.
Like it. What do you got for us, Yvonne?
Really nothing today.
Good.
That's what I thought. Nothing is good at this point.
Okay, now, I'd like to open the floor up for public comments. Anybody that has a comment they want to make, come up here and give your name and address, and we allow 5 minutes for a public comment. Okay, if there's no public comments tonight, we'll open up council comments. I don't have any comments tonight. Brandy?
A couple things. I try to recognize positivity going on in our community, especially with our schools. And since I was not here at the last meeting, just want to give regard to the robotics team with New Palestine schools who are going to compete basically in the Worlds in Texas and are currently raising funds and advocating very hard to do so. It's an honor to have such brilliant young people in our community who get that wonderful opportunity, and I encourage you all to stay tuned to what they're about to accomplish. I also want to give regard to the Winter Guard with the New Palestine High School Band, and the Winter Guard there who just competed in the WGI Nationals, where they were, finalists being able to compete at that capacity. And they worked so hard, and just so very proud of them and how they represented us. And a cause near and dear to my heart also is the show choirs at New Palestine High School competed in the state finals in the month of March. And both Diamond Sensations, the all-girls choir, show choir, and the Crimson Heat, the girls choir, both competed at state finals. And they both finished very well there. We were proud of them. And the Diamond Sensations finished third in the state of Indiana in small school, the highest finish of any show choir at New Palestine High School in history. I'm honored that my beautiful daughter, who was sitting here earlier, was a part of that group and has been a part of that group, and life's about to change big time with her being a senior in high school. So I just want to give regard to all these wonderful young people and encourage you to support them every chance that you get in our community. I also want to be clear, attendance-wise, I will not be at the May 17th meeting. I sincerely apologize, but when your child is receiving a national award in Washington, D.C., you go. And so I'm proud. I'm proud. I can't give any other information at this time, but I will be in Washington, D.C., enjoying that special moment with her. So to prepare attendance, I will not be here. And thank you to everyone who continues to come out and make your voice heard, no matter the topic, no matter where you stand. Thank you for being here, being involved, and I encourage you to continue to do so, because we're here to represent you in our community. So thank you for being here. And for staying till 9:10, those of you that have hung in here.
Thanks, Brandy. Bill, you're up next on the agenda here.
I think we as a town should jump on the Eclipse bandwagon and not underestimate what an economic generator that event could be. If little Hopkinsville, Kentucky can make $28 million and we just hit the cosmic lottery, let's start planning and get on that, because what an incredible opportunity. And so I would just like to get involved in that. I plan on going to the meeting May the 9th, and, wow. I mean, an opportunity to make money on something like that, I think we should be in favor of. Thank you.
Angie?
I'm going to sit up here at every meeting when it comes to council comments and make the same statement until it happens. I want to know where the picture of Dale's phone came from. He asked, he was in the audience, and he felt it was violated, and I want to know where the picture came from. And it was presented in a public meeting as factual documentation, and that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Doug, what's the protocol on that, since it was introduced at a public meeting, but it's not a piece of paperwork?
Well, I mean, it's a really difficult question, right? So there was a public records request, as I recall, related to this incident. As I've been told, there was no responsive documents to that request. So if there's not a responsive document to a request, there's no statute that says that council members have to answer questions. Just as the gentleman before asked questions during comment, you're able to answer them if you want to, but you're not required to unless there's a subpoena or something else. And so I can understand Mr. Wagner's concern. He was in a public place, and you don't have an expectation of privacy in a public place under the law. That doesn't mean
I'm
that...
asking for the documentations also. They were presented as factual information in a public meeting and presented to the public as factual information. So when you do that in a public meeting and you present paperwork that says it's factual paperwork, then that is documents that is public. The public is able to get those.
You're able to get the documents, and I believe the documents that were presented were produced, but what you're asking for is what substantiated them as factual. And if those don't exist, or that there's no responsive documents to his request, then I don't know where they came from. I can't answer. I can't tell you what to ask. But there's no statute that says, aside from subpoena or some type of investigatory authority, you can't make somebody answer questions as a
So we're going to
town
say
council.
that it's okay that Councilman Farno or Councilman Niemeyer requested for something off of a constituent's cell phone during a public meeting, and everybody's going to be okay with that?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow your
Everybody
question.
should be okay with that?
I'm
I mean,
following-
if people are coming in here and they have something that they want to discuss with the council, and they're scared of retaliation, nobody's going to come and talk at a council meeting, especially if their phones are being under surveillance while they're here.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I have an answer there. If you're in a public space, you don't have an expectation of privacy. If somebody came back here and looked at my phone or my computer, I don't have an expectation of privacy. I can shut my computer if I don't want people to look at it, but that's not an invasion of privacy to look at somebody's computer. And I understand Dale's concern and your concern, but I don't know of a legal remedy at this point.
And it's definitely an ethical concern or an issue that people, like someone that would attend our meeting, would not feel safe. And I know you said, but that their personal property, what they're doing, that someone would take a picture of it and share it, and then it would be used, in a situation that no one knows is factual or not, right? I mean, it's just a situation at hand that it was presented and it was used in a manner to, make a point. And I'm not getting in the middle of an argument. I'm just saying that in general, I would hate for people to feel even more so that this is not a safe place, a place for their privacy or integrity, or that anything they could say or do be used against, not in a court of law, but used against them, and that it would be presented as something by a council member, with a
Time out, Brandy.
conflict.
Excuse me, Steve and Chris, can you take that outside? We're still in the middle of the meeting here. Thank you.
But just, as a conflict or a matter of attendance, where if they weren't here, then why were on their phone? But did you know that? I'm not trying to get in the weeds of all of it, but the ethical piece of this is, it's cringeworthy, I guess, what one of my teenagers would say. And I don't know if anything can be said or done about it, but I just don't know why simply it can't be answered and resolved and, I don't know. But I don't like it either.
Well, if we want, when we got into council member comments, I did not harangue about things that have happened in the past and who may or may not have violated ethical principles for personal gain. I, for one, am prepared to move forward. You can bring it up every meeting you want. You have any response that you're going to get. If you choose to be petty, then choose to be petty. I don't. I'm moving forward as best as possible. But if you want to go into the weeds, we can go into the weeds.
I'll go into the weeds.
I'm more than happy to stay after this meeting so we don't have to do it in front of the public. I made that offer before when you stormed out the door.
I'm not going to do
Well,
this
what she's saying, Bill,
privately. It's
it
gonna be
was
publicly.
presented at a public meeting.
So we discuss
That's right,
publicly.
and what was presented has been provided. And I'm sorry that was a meeting you chose not to attend, as many. Clint, I move that we adjourn.
Well, I don't know if Angie's given up the floor yet. She's still, it's her council comments that are,
I thought we
on the
went
floor right
beyond that.
now.
Okay.
Clint runs these meetings, not you. I'm finished, Clint, thank you.
Do you have anything else to address on this, Angie, or do you have any solution that we can,
No, I'll just have to go out and pay for my own attorney yet again to represent me sitting on the council in order to get the answers that we need. This will be the second time I was sitting on the town council that I've had to do this, which I think is ridiculous because I have to pay out of pocket. And Doug does too. But I'm not going to sit up here and be bullied into making decisions or feel threatened whenever my name is plastered across the newspapers in order to keep me silenced. And I don't back down to bullies. So I will still sit up here and I will still preach. And as long as people are asking for answers, then I will sit up here and ask those answers for them. That's why we are sitting here.
and I will not use this position for personal gain as others have.
You want to describe whatever that personal gain is, Bill?
After this meeting adjourns, I'll be happy to.
Well, I'd be happy to discuss it publicly.
Are you directing those comments to everybody?
Well, these are council comments tonight, and if we want to add this discussion to the agenda at the next meeting, we can.
Let's add it to the agenda for the next meeting, please.
Okay.
I will keep it in the light until there's answers.
So what exactly are we adding?
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Adjourned.